and everybody else. All right, it is Veterans Day. Wanted to wish all the veterans out there a happy and safe Veterans Day. Um, if you haven't taken advantage of the veterans benefits, all the freebies, you can Google that. Lots of places giving veterans freebies, from food to discounts to vouchers and all sorts of stuff. I haven't taken any advantage of any veterans benefits today. Don't really plan on it. Kind of closing things out. Wanted to ask you guys a question. I know this is this channel isn't really a lot of my viewers on here aren't really like gamers. At least I don't think so. Maybe you are. I don't know. One of the things I've been trying to finish up is my software development. You know, I have some projects that I want to finish, but they kept getting put off for one reason or another. And now, you know, with the passing of Stuart, who was like half of the programming team. Well, he wasn't a programmer, but he was the graphics dude, as well as some content being gone. He's gone now. That kind of leaves me pretty much gonna have to go on it on my own. I was thinking about doing my game, you know, finishing up some projects that I had started on since I was a kid. And they got put off because I went in the military and then got married and had kids and, you know, all that stuff, life basically. So instead of becoming a computer nerd programmer dude, I didn't. But it's one of those things that have been hanging over me ever since I was a teenager, when I started writing this stuff. And I got some of it done, but they were on the VIC-20 and never distributed. And I had some of the source code for that. And then I went over to the Commodore 128 and ported it there, wrote it there, and didn't release that either. Then I went in the military, got out of the military, and ended up with MS-DOS, and finished releasing some products under MS-DOS, and a couple other projects under Windows. Now, the thing about it is this: in that time, which was, let's see, more than 20 years ago, 20, 30 years ago, you know, maybe as late as 35, 36 years ago, computers have changed a lot, and software has changed. You know, a lot of games and stuff now, the commercial ones at least, they pretty much require like a full-blown team, and they usually have a lot of budget, like a lot of money and stuff, and they can take a really long time to develop. I don't have that. So I'm wanting to finish the projects and debating if I should do it under the VIC-20, which is how I started. If you guys are into this stuff, let me know. The problem I have doing it on a VIC-20, okay, let me give you the pros and cons of doing it on a VIC-20. One, the VIC-20 is very limited in resources. So if I do it on a VIC-20, then I could probably do it really fast by myself. But, you know, the VIC-20 is very limited. So graphically, it won't be much. And even with memory, if I made it for a fully expanded VIC, I think you could access like 28K of RAM, 29K of RAM. That would still keep the program pretty small, even if I had it load in multiple parts. But it would be something one person could do. But then, you know, how big a market is that? Not that I'm trying to sell it or make money on it, although it'd be nice to make some money for my efforts, but I don't really see much of a market for VIC-20 software at this stage. Although, you know, I love programming for the VIC, and with full-blown 32K VIC-20 access available now, I could write some really awesome stuff. I used to write stuff for the 5K unexpanded VIC, with 3.5K RAM available. Now with 28, 29K available for programming, you can write some really nice stuff for the VIC. But graphically, it won't look like much, and to play it, you'd have to run it on a expanded VIC-20 or a VIC-20 emulator. But it would be something that I could do, and probably finish. The other option is to go with Commodore 128, which would give me even more RAM, better color, better graphics, but still a very limited market, and I think even smaller than the VIC-20 market. And the final option that I'm really, really considering, well, there's several other options, but one big option that right now is in the lead for me is to develop under MS-DOS. Yeah, I know people are saying, this is ridiculous, Denoy. Why you got to do it under MS-DOS? Why don't you do it for modern computers? The problem with modern computers is they're very, very resource intensive. And, if you do a modern game, people expect it to be kind of modern, not like retro looking. And if you do it modern, that means like enhanced graphics, enhanced sound effects, like digital sounds, voices, and all this stuff. And my game would look like crap. I don't think anyone would play it. I'm thinking of writing it under MS-DOS, but then, the question is, do people want a single player experience anymore? Do they want it to be multiplayer? The original idea of the game was to have it single player, and then when you finish the single player version, you could go into an online world, kind of like World of Warcraft and all these multiplayer games and stuff. But I don't have the resources to do all that. I'm not sure, I have the time and resources available at this point to do it. But if I write it under MS-DOS, I could still conceivably do it myself and make it tile-based. There's a lot of free graphics out there, so I could pull graphics, from resource projects that people have made. So the game would look similar. I was thinking like maybe old-style Ultima, the tile-based Ultima, because it's like a RPG-type game. Now, maybe on a follow-up video to this, I will show you what the game looked like. There were different incarnations of the game. One under MS-DOS that was Warcraft style, not World of Warcraft, but Warcraft, the original Warcraft 1 and Warcraft 2, Tides of Darkness, Warcraft 3 or whatever. It was kind of an overhead view with the cloud of darkness or whatever. So it's kind of like that. I had started an engine that wasn't fully developed, and I started to code that. Then I switched over to Windows, and with Windows I ended up doing it, with Windows. But it looked more modern, kind of like Nintendo style graphics, cartoonish. But then you have to have artists and stuff available to do that. Although you could potentially download sprites and stuff for free off the internet that are available and go with those graphics. So whether it's DOS or Windows, I think I could do with like public graphics, public domain or freely available graphics. Yeah, it'll make the game look kind of generic looking, but hopefully people will ignore that and play for the game for what it is, which is my story. What to do? What do you guys think? What I wanted to, the reason for going to MS-DOS is this. Even with modern computers, they now have DOSBox for almost every platform. And for those of you who don't know, DOSBox allows your computer, whether it be an Apple or a Linux machine or a Commodore or even an Android phone or whatever, a PC, a Windows PC, whatever, as long as it can run a web browser and they've written a version of DOSBox to support that web browser. You can play an old DOS game inside DOSBox on the web browser. And the reason that's kind of important is I wanted to make a game that I could actually possibly finish by myself, and make it so it would be available for people to play pretty much on any system. That's the reason. I mean, I could, even if I did it on a VIC-20, I think almost every modern computer, or maybe even telephones and touchpads, may have a VIC emulator, but it might not be as good. It won't look as pretty, and the sound effects will be just beeps and no digital sound. But if I go to MS-DOS, they port that, to the online browser-based DOSBox, and that means you don't even have to. You can just go online and hit a link and play it in browser. The issue I'm having is, then what about the multiplayer? Or give up on multiplayer for now, and maybe if somebody wants to take over the project and make a multiplayer world, give them access to it. The other thing I was thinking of doing is releasing the source code for some of my old games, including Legend and the Silver Talisman and Munchman, even though the code, it's embarrassing. It's really messy, but you can see what my code looked like. And, it was a commercially released product, well, shareware released, rather. But, the code is really messy. I don't even know if I can get it to compile. I kind of wrote it, threw it together really fast, the code. And it's not organized, very organized. It's a mess. But you can kind of look at it and see what made up the game. I know that the game has some issues and bugs, but maybe releasing it if anyone wants to look at a code of a game and see what the code looks like versus what the game looks like. All the resources, so if you can get it to compile, you can modify it. One of the things I wanted to do potentially was make the Legend of the Silver Talisman so it would work off like a mouse press or a screen touch, which would allow it to be played on new computers or on touch tablets. That would allow it to be played through DOSBox on modern systems and actually work. Because it was really hard to control with the keyboard, and because it was designed for using joypads back in the day, like joysticks, but they're like joypads. It was designed for 2 joypads on a PC, and a lot of people don't have that now. Back in the 90s, people did have that to play like arcade games, and now people don't have that. So new people looking at it, at the DOS archives and things like that, they can't really figure it out. You can play it with the keyboard, but only one player can really use the keyboard. I mean, there's 2 players can use the keyboard, but it gets crowded. 2 people trying to work on one keyboard, and it was confusing. So if I fix that, the game might actually get more play for Legend of the Silver Talisman. But I don't know if I want to do that. Maybe just let old dogs lie and just leave it. But finish the project that I wanted to, which is Eye of Kobori. But even before that, I had some VIC-20 releases that I was thinking of releasing. One is called The Lost Sword of Yonada, which was the first of the story. Then there was The Lost Dungeons of Yonada. And then the third one was the Eye of Kobori. Now, Eye of Kobori is the big one, And then you had Legends of the Silver Talisman, which kind of goes in between there. But, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. If I do The Lost Sword of Yonada, it was pretty much written. I don't know if I can find the source code on a VIC-20. Sadly, I've lost access to all the files, and through the moves and becoming homeless, I had them all on tape, cassette tape. That's how old the technology was. I had the files on cassette tape, and then later I put them on disc, 5 1/4-inch diskettes. But, going through the divorce, losing all my stuff, losing my home, all my items, I kept them for the longest time, and then they all got wet. and ruined. So all of it's gone. I have some of the source code. I could potentially try to type it into VIC-20 or get somebody to type it in if they can figure out, what the reverse symbols mean. Like the VIC-20, the printout listings that had like reverse E, reverse R, those were like color controls and cursor controls and things like that. Because the game was written in BASIC and machine language code. So if I did that, I could release the VIC-20 stuff. Like I think I found the source code for the Lost Sword of Yonada, maybe the Lost World of Yonada. I don't remember what it was, but I found some source code, and if I type those all in, they might work on a VIC-20 without changes. So those could be done and released for the VIC. I think they were like 90% done, if not fully done, just never released. And then Eye of Kabori was on a PC, and I still had the old DOS code. I was able to find it. It was written in I don't know if I did it in Pascal or C, Turbo Pascal or Turbo C. But I had the source code and I was able to look at it and stuff. If I get that all compiling, it would work again. But the problem with it is when I look at it now, it looks so... Maybe I'll show it to you. I'll do a video for those of you who are really interested to see what it looked like. I don't have the Commodore 128 version. Commodore 128 version was the most developed version, and it looked a lot like Ultima, except on a Commodore 128. And it was kind of like Ultima, but different than Ultima. It didn't have a scrolling world. Like you walked off the screen and then it showed the next screen. And the players were sprites, so they moved smoothly. But it was really nice. And the good news is I have the original world map. So what you'd be playing is actually old maps, old code, not old code, new code on old original maps and ideas and stuff. So the game is really the old game, but recoded completely. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Yeah, I haven't been able to read your comments because I've been driving, so I appreciate all of you who are tuning in and saying hello. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of doing. I know this is the regular channel, so not a lot of gamers on here, so I don't know how much feedback I'll actually get. Maybe I'll do a video. I might try to do my first stream on Twitch. I signed up for a Twitch account, which I was planning on streaming stuff, but I haven't really had time. Now look at the Twitch streamers, and the ones who do it like professionally, they pretty much have to be on there every day. I'm like, holy schmoly! These Twitchers, these Twitch streamers, they sit on the computer like 8 hours a day or more. They work harder than the YouTubers. Of course, I think a lot of their stuff they don't have to edit. So, it's just them sitting there playing a game or comment. I don't know what they Twitch. I don't really use Twitch that much. But I guess they Twitch themselves playing games and making commentaries and things like that. And I guess that's how people get entertained nowadays. The young people, they like watching somebody else play a game and making comments. And then I guess every once in a while they go into a rage, like when they get killed, and they break everything. Well, I don't know. I think I'm too old for that. So I don't know. I don't know about Twitch, but there were some Twitch people that signed up. Some people even donated from the Twitch account. So I feel like I need to finish the game and put those people in it. At least do something to show them my appreciation for them remembering Legend of Silver Talisman and wanting to see Eye of Kabori. So I may go ahead and do Eye of Kabori. The other thing about it is there's one more option, which is to make it online. But then I have to learn all this stuff. And, when you have to learn something, there's a learning curve, which means it's going to slow down development, and it may not be the very best, because I'd be learning how to do everything. I don't already know how to do it. Whereas if I program it under MS-DOS, you could play it right away. this was like my plan was like maybe develop it under MS-DOS, potentially using a new tool. Like there's a new tool available that's under development, also called Turbo Rascal. Syntax error. I think it's similar to Pascal, but you know, it's designed to be usable to port of a game. So it can be ported to Super Nintendo, it can be ported to Commodore 64, Commodore X16, all the new system, you know, homebrew, new systems, as well as classic old systems like Atari and Commodore and Apple, or you know. But if I do it under Turbo Rascal, I don't think it has PC support, MS-DOS. If it doesn't, then, you know, that kind of sucks. That would mean I'd have to program it for a Commodore 64 or something and import it. So, I don't know. Just trying to come up with the language, because once committing myself to it, you know, whatever I pick, that's what I got to work with. I don't want to go halfway through and say, you know what, I can't finish it. So, I know I could probably finish it under MS-DOS. I could even do it under Windows, you know, with a modern language. The reason for trying to avoid doing it under Windows is that I'm afraid that if I do it under Windows, it may become extinct. And what I mean by extinct is if people do not write a Windows emulator in the future, okay, it may not run the software anymore. So that means what you write disappears into oblivion. And unless somebody's running Windows on it, your product, your game will never be seen again. There's a lot of Windows, like Windows 3.1 games and things, or even Windows 95 stuff that may be gone now forever, because unless someone's running Windows 95, which is very few people wanting to run Windows 95, or Windows 3.1, your stuff just disappears. But see, people are running MS-DOS. They're running DOSBox, you know, the game archive online. Somebody, it wasn't me, I wish I knew, I'm kind of learned how to do it. They put my game, encapsulated it to make it run in a web browser. And that's the big push for doing it under MS-DOS, is that conceivably I could learn or have somebody encapsulate it for me, preferably me, because then I can do an update and encapsulate it and put it online, and people can play it from their phone or their computer on a web browser. And if I can figure out how to do it so it can be multiplayer, that would be really good, but I don't think you can do that when it's encapsulated like that. But at least it would get the game out there and let me finish a project that I started on since I was about 14, 15 years old. I want to finish it. It's one of those projects that you're like, I just got to finish it. I want to finish it before I croak. Let me put it that way. And I don't want to have it unfinished. So let me know. All right, I'm rambling. And yeah, I'm going to sign out. I appreciate all of you who are still paying attention at this point. But put in your comments down below. I might try to do a Twitch or maybe I'll do a live stream on here and show what the old games look like. The reason I'm hesitant to do Twitch is because I'm not really set up for twitching or Twitch streaming, and I'm more comfortable with YouTube. So I may show you guys, because I started to dig through old code and old stuff, and I found some of it. There was one version of Legend of the Silver Talisman that you guys didn't, I don't think anyone has seen other than me and Ryan. Ryan was my junior programmer. It had me in the game, and Ryan. And it was basically Legends of the Silver Talisman updated in the year, I think we did it in 2000. And what we were going to do was allow purchasers of the game, when they buy the game, they could send in a digital picture of themselves, their head, shot from the front and the side of their head or whatever. And we were going to scan it and put it into the game for them. So the game, and then we were going to collect that game head database. And it was going to be used so that when there was an online version, because that was the idea, was we were going to write Legend of the Silver Talisman online. You played it, and the graphics were enhanced. They were like large tiles, like Ultima 7, 8, 9, or whatever. You know, the big tiles. So it was that view. It was still that forced 3D fake perspective, but you could see your head in the game. So the characters inside the game had real heads, like real people. And that version of the game had me and Ryan running around in the dungeon, and it was designed so that players could make their own dungeons, and we were doing it in such a way that you could design, like there was things, we made things, like for example, there was a buzz saw that went on the ground. It was a saw trap, and you could put a saw on the ground, and you laid the tracks for the saw. And when the players run, they have to run through it, and the saw moves along the track. And if they get hit, they get chopped up to bits. And there were spikes that would, there was a lot more danger in that game. And it wasn't like hard coded. What we did was we tried to make it so that everything was like an object. So you could code in, people could draw their own dungeons and put spikes in the ground, and the spikes would shoot up, when you run through it. And there were also traps where, remember the wind trap on the old game where you ran by a hole and it blew you? So they could put those there, and it blew you across the screen. And it had, and if you hit the traps with the spikes, it would come up and, they came up and down automatically. And the way we did it was we made it so that people could draw the dungeon with regular ASCII characters, using like Notepad or something. And they could draw the dungeon out. Like how people used to play Dungeons and Dragons, you kind of draw things on a gridded paper. But instead of using gridded paper, you could use Notepad and make your dungeon on it. And I think we did it in such a way that the dungeon could even be different sizes. I don't know if we fixed the size, it had to only be a certain size, or if we made it so you could make it any size. But the dungeons could be designed simply just by putting symbols on a notepad. When I say notepad, I mean like the Windows notepad, basically a MS-DOS text editor. It was a text file. And we tried to make it in such a way that the plan was to make it online, and then people could make their own dungeons and upload, and the world would continue. And then I think we were trying to design it so that we didn't really run the server. We ran like a mirror, a reflector, so that people could, when they logged into the game, they would hit our reflector, and they could either be a server and then wait for people to come onto their computer to play, or they could look for a server that somebody else had set up. The plan was to make it so people could run it off their systems without our computer running it. As the only thing the server did was act as a mirror, a reflector. And the reason for doing that was we didn't have money. we were just trying to do it on I had paid for a web server, and we were just going to write a little script on the web server to act as I guess a reflector for the people logging in, the clients, and hooking them all up so they could play with each other. But it was really neat. But sadly, that didn't get, it didn't get done. And I don't know, I can't seem to find any working samples of that, but it was cool. It was really nice. Like I said, let me know your thoughts, and maybe let me show you what I had going on before, as well as potential plans for graphics and things like that. The big thing is that, if you get too caught up in the graphics, which is what happens with like a lot of games, like I think modern games, the content suffers. They work so hard on the graphics and special effects and stuff that gameplay, they all pretty much the same game. At least that's what it seems like to me. But then again, I haven't really played any new game for the last 10, 15 years. Because when I started playing them on the Xbox when it first came out, I thought it was really cool, the graphics with the 3D and everything. But then it seemed like almost every game I went into, it was the same game. It was like they basically had the same game over and over and over. And I look at like the new games, and they all seem to be like shooting games where you run around killing each other and stuff like that. And there's not really much story. And the other thing about it is, like, in the old days when I did games, the game writer was telling a story, and a lot of times there was some kind of moral issue that the programmer was pushing. It's like a writer, when you're a book writer, you write a story. It might seem like it's just for entertainment, but there's actually reasoning behind it, that people make the stuff, the game or the book or whatever, and they're trying to teach people something or tell a message. It's like songs, when people write a song, some people think it's just song, but a lot of times the song or the poetry or something may in a way be protest or a way for people to, tell people to think about things with the world and everything else. So my game, the Eye of Kabori, actually has some messages within the game. And the messages were relevant then, when I was a child, and they're still relevant, maybe even more so now. So there's like hidden messages in games. At least there used to be. Nowadays, I don't know if there's any hidden message. It's like, you try to obliterate the other team. That's what the message seems to be like, kill or be killed. Which, I guess that is a message, but I would prefer a message saying maybe you don't have to kill, I was listening to an interview. There's this review on YouTube by another guy, on the Ultima series, which I thought was really awesome. He did an interview and he had messages in there like about Lord British and how you put at the end of Ultima Underworld, at the last part of Ultima 6. You had to go through this room, and there was a bunch of what looked like little kids all caged up. And if you open up the cage, you hit the lever, the cage is open, and the little kids came out and started attacking you. Then you have to kill them all. And he said one of the programmers quit over that. Was ready to quit, went up to the his partner or whatever and said, hey, I don't want to be any part of this child abuse. And then, they had to find out what it was all about. And he was saying, at the very last scene where you go in, you have to kill all those kids. And then Lord British, Richard Garrett, the guy that was the developer, he said, you didn't have to kill the kids. He put that in there to make the player think. The whole game was like Quest of the Avatar or whatever. They're trying to be an avatar, which is like the ultimate good guy, So you had to determine if you am I in a car to turn, So you had to determine if you were going to wipe out all those kids or not. And I don't know. But what he was saying was you didn't have to kill all those kids. You could have simply not open the cage, not free those kids, and just walk right on through and leave the kids like that, not kill them. Or you could just punch them. And he said they weren't kids. They were like little vampire monsters. They looked like kids, but they weren't kids. They were monsters. They were bad guys. So, I thought that was interesting. Because that whole game was like trying to teach people things, like how to behave, good behavior, bad behavior, and stuff like that. My games, they tend not to be that deep, but a lot of times there are messages in them. So if you play old DOS games and stuff like that, look for the messages. Oftentimes programmers put their little messages inside. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and sign out. Let you guys go and look forward to that stuff. Let me know your thoughts. All right. Until next time, everyone. Take care. God bless you all. And if you're a veteran, happy Veterans Day. Make sure you get your goodies. Bye-bye now.